Well, I did a thing. I'm almost 60 years old. As a matter of fact, my birthday is in 3 weeks, and I purchased a Tesla. And there's been some lessons learned along the way. So here's my experience purchasing my first Tesla. I wasn't really planning to share this experience, but after some thought, I realized there are things others could learn. Now, warning, there might be some meandering ahead. So to help with that, I've got chapter markers in the scrubber and video description if you want to skip around. I was looking to replace my 2016 Honda Civic. Nothing wrong with that car. It was a great car, and I used to call it probably the best car I've ever owned. But I was craving something new, something a little more modern, something with some tech. Obviously, because this is called Retro Combs Tech. I really enjoy technology, and I kind of want to be at the cutting edge and forefront of some of that technology, including automotive technology. Now, as I researched vehicles, the only one that really spoke to my love of automobiles and tech was Tesla. I looked at a lot of EV cars, but a lot of those cars were just cars with EV motors in them. None of them seemed like a holistic redesign of the entire car for that technology, except for Tesla. I watched hours of video to get familiar with the Teslas, and specifically, I was looking at the Model 3 for its features, specs, and price. This car was definitely in my price range, but two things concerned me. First of all, the true cost of ownership. What was it going to cost for me to get into the car? And long term, and not for this video, we'll have to talk about that later if we want to, would I be able to recoup any of the cost? Now, I am pragmatic. I know I'm never probably going to recoup the cost of ownership to recoup the higher cost of the car. And you'll learn a little bit more why. It has something to do with my driving habits. The other thing I wanted to know was, could I, a lifelong petrol head, as a matter of fact, what are we looking at? 46 years, 44 years worth, 40, yeah, that's about the math. 44 years worth of driving gas, could I make the conversion to EV and be comfortable with it? After even more research, I realized the Model 3 was going to potentially fit my budget if a few things lined up. First of all, I needed to be able to claim that $7,500 federal rebate. Turns out that the lovely accountant and I did fall within the joint filing tax code so that we could get that $7,500 rebate. Check one done. And then I wanted at least $13,000 for my trade-in. That was roughly what the Kelley Blue Book was for my Honda Civic Touring. It was a 2016, so around $13,000. I also decided to stick with the rear-wheel drive model because I didn't want to pay extra for all-wheel drive. And then I also was going to stick with the default kind of dark gray stealth paint and the black interior because those are standard and don't have $1,000 upcharges. If you go to any other color, it's a $1,000 upcharge for both the interior and the exterior paint. And the rear-wheel drive chassis is a little less expensive than the all-wheel drive for obvious reasons. Also, I wanted to pay cash. I hate car loans, and I've been saving for a new car since I purchased my last car, that 2016 Honda, and I'm a Dave Ramsey guy. So the point is I wanted to walk in and pay cash, or however that looked like. And what we'll learn is that you don't walk in and pay cash. You're going to do everything through an app, including paying for your car. The other thing I wanted to know is, could I survive on a 110-volt garage outlet? Now, I might want to upgrade later. We'll talk about why I think I could survive on a 110-volt outlet in just a little bit. Also want to make sure I got the $1,000 military discount. More on that later, too. But before you just dive into the app, because you will purchase everything and do everything on the app, I wanted to go to a Tesla dealer and try out one of the vehicles. So on December 17th, 2024, which I will always remember that date because that is the lovely accountant and I's anniversary. So I asked her, I said, hey, I know we got a trip around. It's going to be close to this Tesla dealer. Do you mind if we stop by and just take a quick look at one of the vehicles? I will say she hesitated but agreed since we'd already planned dinner again and shopping in the area. And it was close, so we could just stop by and take a quick look. So when we arrived, I was shocked. Now, why was I shocked? Well, there was no one rushing out of the door to come knock you down trying to sell you a car. Boy, that was nice. I did find, however, a pleasant associate who greeted us when we walked in the door. And when I walked in, he simply said, "Hey, can I help?" I shared my story about thinking about a Tesla. I was to the point where I thought and then before I could even finish, he asked, "You want to take a test drive, don't you?" And I said, "Absolutely." But I tried to stay cool. And then I realized, wait a minute, there's no haggling or bargaining. You can be as excited about this thing as you want when you walk in. You can ask all the questions. You don't have to be hesitant about your excitement for this vehicle. It's kind of like buying a pair of jeans. This car is either going to fit or it's not. So after the associate scanned my driver's license, he logged me in on his little guest computer and handed me the key card to a Tesla Model 3. Before we jumped in, though, he said or asked if I wanted to try the full supervised driving demo. Well, of course I wanted to try that. Now, I was curious in this because if you purchased the Model 3 before the end of the year, then you got 3 free months of FSD. So I thought, well, I should at least get a demo so I can watch and learn how to use this feature in case I do purchase. So we walked up to the car, and of course the potential buyer doesn't get to just jump in and use the FSD. The associate took control of the car to demo it. It probably would be pretty disastrous if somebody just jumped in the car and you let them have at it. So he sat in the driver's seat, I sat in the passenger seat, and the lovely accountant went to the back seat. So the associate took the wheel, set the destination to the nearest hospital, and let the car do its thing. It made every stop, turn, and signal flawlessly. After returning to the dealership, it was time for us to take it for a spin. Surprisingly, the lovely accountant wanted to stand back because there was a screen back there, and she loved the panoramic roof on the Model 3. So she said, "I'm just going to sit back here." And the other thing that it did for us was to see what was the sound level. Could we hear each other in the front seat and the back seat? Little spoiler, it was easy. This is one quiet car, the Model 3 is. Now, the rear-wheel drive Model 3's acceleration was pretty impressive, and I was glad that I kind of thought I was going to opt for the rear-wheel drive for better range. Or at least that's what I thought at the time. Stay tuned to find out why I didn't end up with the rear-wheel drive model. By the way, rear-wheel drive is very hard to say. Now, back at the dealership, I told the associate we're ready to go through the purchase process. Now, the associate we had, he was a knowledgeable young gentleman from our hometown, which was kind of a surprise, which the dealership is about an hour away, so that was nice. And his insights were helpful, although he did forget to ask me one important question, as I would later learn. That would cost me about $1,000. More on that in a minute. So looking through the inventory, we tried to find the right vehicle. I wanted an in-stock unit to take advantage of the 3 months of FSD and enjoy the car during my holiday break. So I had to pick up a vehicle and take delivery by the end of the year. Now, this was only the 17th, so we had plenty of time. Unfortunately, none of the available cars matched my low-cost criteria, specifically for the rear-wheel drive model. Everything on the lots and in their inventory was all-wheel drive. There were a couple of premium paints and some white interiors. No thanks for white interiors. I have a dog. Well, I settled on an all-wheel drive model so that I would be better prepared for the winters in Indiana. Now, what I wasn't necessarily aware is that when you go ahead and step up to the all-wheel drive model, which I probably could have seen this in the app and online if I'd spent more time researching. I can't imagine spending any more time researching than I did. But you also get with the all-wheel drive model a long-range battery and an upgraded sound system. So you get a couple of little extra perks there, which was nice, but it did jack up the price just a little bit. Now, you remember earlier I said that there was a costly mistake made, and that costly mistake actually proves to be my only disappointment in the purchase process. My associate didn't remind me about the $1,000 military discount that's available for active duty military and retirees. And yes, I know I should have asked, but I learned from another associate later that this discount is supposed to be a part of the regular questions they ask. So I missed it. And my suggestion is it should be even more prevalent in the Tesla app because it is not. It is not an option when you go through, hey, do you qualify for the military discount? Now, a little bit more unsettling is that even when I brought it up with my online associate, who I was working through this entire purchase, told me it was too late to go back because I had already started the process, which I thought was kind of cheesy. But even worse, When I showed up to take delivery, so I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but when I showed up to take delivery of the vehicle, I told the delivery associate my issue and said, hey, could you just throw in one of those $250 chargers since I didn't get my $1,000 military discount? You know, that probably costs them, what, $100 maybe? So it's $100 probably for them to be out. Nope, not going to happen. It seems their local associates don't have the kind of pull available at most car dealers. They don't do that, again, because I guess that's part of that whole no haggle or whatever. But gee, it just seems like that would have been a nice thing that Tesla could have done for someone who lost $1,000 because he started the process and we didn't ask the right questions. But again, I get it. I guess I could have gone back, completely canceled the order, and started over. But that probably wasn't going to happen as far in as I was. So just remember, active duty, military, and retirees, don't forget to ask for your discount, and you'll get that when you use your ID.me account. You know what that is if you're in the military. But again, the excitement and anticipation already had me. I was stuck. I'm moving in. I'm not well known for my holiday willpower. So let's talk a little bit about my trade-in. My trade-in was interesting. So you do everything online for the trade-in. They don't ever see the car in advance. So how it works is you put in your VIN, you put some general information, you log your miles, and then you're supposed to take some pictures. Now in the app, I never saw that I needed any other picture other than the odometer. So I took that picture, uploaded it, put all the information in, and then it sat there. It sat there for days. Probably was 72 hours. I thought that would be a little bit quicker. Then eventually somebody reached back and said, in the app, you checked that it was inoperable. I don't even remember going back and seeing in the app where there's even an inoperable option. So they wanted me to confirm. I did confirm, waited a little bit longer. And then on top of that, they came back later and said, we don't have enough pictures. You're supposed to provide all of these pictures. And again, I never saw a list of any pictures in the app that I was supposed to provide. So luckily, when you use the app, they do give you an associate that you can work with online via email and text even. So I texted my online associate and said, hey, here's what's going on. They're asking for all this. Now, he was great. So what he said is, yeah, you probably don't have a way to upload those pictures, but if you send them to me, I'll upload them for you. So he sent me a very clear list of what I needed to take. I ran out to the car. Of course, I took it and washed it and cleaned it and everything before, because you want to do that. And then I took all the pictures. The 2016 Honda looked fabulous. I have to admit, I was looking at it after I cleaned it and went, do I really want to trade this thing? So I got all that done, uploaded, and then we waited. Now, it came down to the wire. I was supposed to take possession on the, 23rd to the 21st. It was a Friday, and we were working all this through the weekend. It looked like the 21st was not going to happen. So I just said, hey, if they need extra time, I'm good. I don't need to take immediate delivery on the 21st. You want to try something else, as long as we get through before the end of the year. I was in no hurry. And I think it's another thing I'd say, don't be in a hurry. It is a pretty fast process, but it is not as fast maybe it depends on, I guess, partly on what's in stock and inventory, but sometimes you can go to a car dealer and buy that same day. You're probably not doing that with a Tesla when you go through all of that. However, we got through it and we scheduled for the 23rd, and I'm happy to say that everything was clear, ready to go on the 23rd, or as we like to say around our house, Christmas Adam, Adam before Eve. So on December 23rd, we arrived for our delivery. Now, I will say the delivery process was smooth. As a matter of fact, I would say using an app to buy a car is an amazing experience, because again, you don't have to deal with anybody. You don't have to talk to anybody that is trying to sell you and upsell you this and upsell you that. So the Tesla buying experience through the app, through the associates, is fabulous. They get a huge thumbs up. I get there and I talk to the associate. All the paperwork is ready. He just takes the paperwork from over here, pulls it over, and says, okay, let's work through your paperwork. And he said, do you want to sign now and take possession? I said, well, actually, I'd really rather inspect the vehicle, because I did do some reading online, said probably want to inspect it before you sign for it. So he was cool with that. He said, oh yeah, absolutely. Here's your car. He pointed to it back in the back, and there it was sitting there. It was beautiful, plugged in. So I walked over, started to make the inspection. I worked through the checklist, and checked things for like body scratches, fit, finish, just anything that could be wrong, and everything was great except for some scratches on the hood. It started out as a couple of minor scratches on the hood, but as I dug into it, there was more scratches and more scratches, but it was all on the hood area. So I noted that on my little phone as I was going through. Everything but the scratches looked great. That was the only thing. So I went back to him. He said, everything okay? I said, well, come here with me. And so we walked back over, we looked at the scratches, and he said, oh yeah, that looks like that hood just was not prepped properly. Kind of slips behind a curtain, is gone, comes back out, and there is a prep guy with a buffer, and he just says, this will take about 10 minutes. So I backed over to the counter and sat for a while, and he sat there and buffed all those scratches out. We went back to inspect it together. Every scratch was gone. So again, I encourage you to really take that time to inventory and get to know your car. I think that's so important. So with everything all buffed out, I was ready to take possession. It was time to sign the paperwork. And the paperwork signing was extremely quick. And the bank transfer, what I did was I gave them my bank account information so that they could transfer the money from my bank to them. And then immediately when they said, okay, that transfer is done, I went back and I separated their access to the account. So that was seamless. It was easy. The paperwork was easy. I only had about 4 or 5 things I had to sign, and most of those were state forms. Since I didn't have a lease or a loan, I didn't have to worry about any of that paperwork. So it's very simple. So highly recommend, if you can pay by cash or wire transfer or whatever, that's the best way to purchase your Tesla for sure. Now, what's really nice is Tesla handles that $7,500 federal rebate that's available if you qualify, which we did at the time of our purchase. It's a very nice touch because they'll take it up front for you so that you don't have to take the extra $7,500 out of your account, pay for it, wait for your tax refund, and then put it back into your account. So you kind of get to keep your money, the power, the earning of your money for wherever that $7,500 happens to be. That's kind of a nice touch. And I assume as tax time rolls around here that I'm just going to need to let my accountant know all that happened, and we'll fill out a form and it should be done. Now, just a heads up though, one of the things that I'd forgotten about is they, at least in the state where I live, you still have to pay your state's registration fee separately, and you do that at your Bureau of Motor Vehicles when you get the license for your vehicle. So I'd kind of forgotten that in my mind. And when I showed up to transfer my plates, I said, you know, your Tesla dealer didn't pay for your registration and fees. Just remember to set aside those licensing fees and add that to the cost of your vehicle. Because again, you're not going to see that when you step up to Tesla and you pay your final bill. Okay, we had everything done. It was time to take control of the car. So we walk over to the car. I have my key, and then he also assigns the car to my Tesla account. So it's officially mine. We can clap, all those things. Pretty exciting. I now own a Tesla, and I was excited just to use the phone. So I took the key card, sat in the car with my phone. It recognized that the car belonged to me. I registered my card with the car. That gets confusing. The card with the car. Did that, put that back in my wallet. And then, I don't exactly remember what it was, but there was something that wouldn't let us get out of the garage. I feel like I should know, and I probably, at some point it'll come back to me, but we were sitting there and we were kind of confused when another associate popped out of nowhere, noted we were kind of confused in the car. He said, can I help? And then I told him what the issue was. And he took care of a few things on the screen. He said, look in your app. Oh, I know what it was now. There you go. How about that? It was actually before when I was registering the card. So that associate also unplugged us, which was nice. He got the Tesla charger out of the charging port for us, lowered the door, and said, you're good to go. You can leave. So we slowly worked our way out of the garage. And I love that they do this in their interior garage. Everything's all inside the garage. It's warm. You can take a look at everything. So that's a nice touch as well. And we drove out slowly through the big garage bay door and rolled out, and there was my Honda Civic. It's the time where you're thinking, did I make the right decision? So not the point of this video. I'm not going to tell you whether I made the right decision. I think I did. There is some angst there. You know, you're going from petrol to EV. There's a lot of tech here. This is a car that probably could have gone another 100,000 miles. And my goal is, could this car just go 100, 200,000. Time will tell on that. So we pulled out. I kind of said goodbye to the car. It was kind of a moment. And then we started off and I started to feel a little bit better. So as we're driving out, I couldn't use the full self-drive, the FSD, because it had to calibrate. It needed about 20 miles to calibrate. That's fine because we just got a chance just to drive the car. After about 20 miles, I got a notification on the screen that said FSD is now available. And I really wanted to try it. So we pulled off, got something to drink, let the car sit for a little bit, pop back into the car, put in my home address. I did have to turn the FSD option on using the screen. And then it told you what to do, which is push that right button wheel thing that they have. I pressed it and it took off by itself. Just like it had been demoed. It was amazing, I will say that. So it took us all the way home. We got to the driveway, FSD disengaged. I raised the garage door and I park the car. Now, the other thing, if you're not familiar with a Tesla, that's really nice is you get this 360-degree full sensing. Now, it's not like a 360-degree camera. It's like a 360-degree radar, and you get this little animated screen that shows everything around you, even as you're driving into your garage. You get indications of when you're too close to things, things are close to you. You get little red indicators around or little heat maps around your car. It's really nice, especially when parking in a garage. So I pulled it right up and parked it right into the garage. I popped the frunk, grabbed my charging cable, plugged that into a 110 outlet that is just like perfectly located and plugged it in. And what I discovered is on the 110, I'm going to get about 5 miles per hour. Now that works for me. Let me tell you why. I only live 2 miles from work. As a matter of fact, it is about 1.5 miles by way of the bird flies. It takes me 2 miles to get there. So what I've learned already is that charging at home is perfect for my use case. I can go to work, come home. I can run some errands in town, come back home, plug in with my 110, and by morning, the next morning, I'm back at 80%, which is the recommended for daily driving for the all-wheel drive model that I have. Just go to 80%. Heck, I could probably take it down to 70 or even 50 if I wanted to, and I will be fine for my daily commutes. So that right there put a big smile on my face the first time I realized that. Now, at some point, I might want to put it in a 220 volt outlet or maybe one of those fun Tesla chargers, but right now I just don't need it. The 110 is sufficient. Now, the other nice thing is that if I'm going on a trip, I can head either 10 miles north, 10 miles south, and there's a Tesla supercharger. So I can get the battery ready for a supercharge, get there, plug in, get my Tesla supercharged. I think it takes about 20, 25 minutes if I need 80%, or if I want to go to 100%, it might take 30 minutes. But I can plan that in my route. The other thing, which is really great, is where I live, which is the state of Indiana. We have Tesla chargers everywhere. They're everywhere. I took a trip this weekend and there was a Tesla charger at my destination. There were the home Tesla chargers at my hotel, so I could keep it plugged in overnight and keep my battery warm because it was sub-freezing temperatures this past weekend. My range anxiety, my charge anxiety really is kind of gone at this point. And what I really love is when you plan your trip on your screen, it lets you tell it what charge level you want to be when you arrive, and then it will choose your stops along the way for charging. And charging isn't as bad as what most people think. What I love is that some of these chargers are called destination chargers. So when you go there, there's something to do while you're there. But in the event there's not, you still have Netflix, you have YouTube, and we have Disney, we have Hulu, all on the screen. You can sit there and get caught up, or you can listen to music. Oh, and by the way, I did find out YouTube TV works. Just go to tv.youtube.com and you can even watch your local channels. And you'll do that with the browser. Now, it doesn't have its own app, but it works fine in the browser. So there you go. You can even watch TV. Now, I do think one of the things I'm going to do is buy another charger, throw it in the frunk, and just keep it there. I don't like having to take my dirty one. It's not really dirty, but just roll that one up from my garage and carry it with me all the time. So I'm probably going to get a separate one to throw in the frunk for travel. And of course, that'll come with a 220 adapter as well. So again, this isn't a final review of the Tesla, but it kind of wraps up my story of my Tesla purchase journey. And what I love about driving the Tesla is every time I drive the car, I learn more and more. And that's kind of part of the fun. What I've always told and what I tell family and friends is I didn't buy a car. I bought a transportation platform because there's no other car out there that I know of that gets regular updates, regular features, and has the breadth of tech geekiness that a Tesla has. I mean, if you are a techno geek like I am and love being on the cutting edge, the Tesla is it. With its minimal design, its minimal interior design, it is, I tell everybody this too, I live in the future when I drop into my Tesla. It is amazing, folks. And I know if you're a tech person, once you get over this, how I've been gassing up vehicles, get that petrol head and just set it aside, you're going to love the EV. Now, we still own a gas vehicle. I don't want to mislead anybody. I will, at least for now, continue to own a gas vehicle too, because there are trips that we would make on occasion where I don't think it's going to be advantageous for me to have to stop for EV charging, or I just don't want to have to think about it. I just want to get in a car and go quickly. So we will continue to have that. And the lovely accountant luckily has a very nice car herself. So that's really it for my experience purchasing a Tesla at the young age of 60. If you found this helpful and are interested in learning more about my Tesla experience, let me know in the comments. And I will say this, if you're thinking of buying a Tesla, drop me an email, retrocombs@icloud.com, and I'll send you a referral code that will give you $1,000 off. I did this when I purchased my vehicle. I phoned a friend, or I texted a friend, and she loved that she was able to give me a code. I dropped the cost of my vehicle $1,000, and then she got $1,000 of Tesla credit to use however she wants. She could use it for superchargers, accessories, or maintenance. It's a great deal. And if enough of you use my referral code, maybe I can get that $1,000 back that I lost for that military discount. That'd be great. I would really appreciate that. Hey, I'm off for a drive because Tesla has made the Sunday drive fun again. That's it for me. Retro Combs out.